3 months ago. He was born in China, and he was born without both ears. And as it often happens to children, generally speaking, but especially to children who have some kind of disabilities or disadvantages, he was abandoned days after he was born. He was placed in an orphanage. Then it seemed like his life began to change for the better because there was a woman that took him home and tried to raise him, but that didn't work out for some reason, so he ended up in an orphanage again and then spent years in that place. And he was cared for, but he had a dream that only was realized a couple of months ago. Can you guess what that dream was? That dream has one word: family. He just wanted to have family of his own. And 3 months ago, it's a longer story, but 3 months ago, this family from Singapore arrived in China, went through a process, and called Qiyuan, their son, and brought him home. So the actual picture that we are looking at is him arriving here at Changi Airport that most of us went through, coming to Singapore, and with his family, not just a mother and a father, but also 2 older siblings greeting him. And you can see by the look on his face that something changed in his life. Can you? Let's just praise God for amazing transformation in the life of this one boy. And this is essentially what a world without orphans is about. And it's not about international adoption, although sometimes as we see that happens and it can change a life. What it is about is seeing every child growing up in a loving, safe, stable, and nurturing family. It's then about seeing this family being connected with and supported by a vibrant local church. It's then seeing this church doing everything the church can to transform the community around them. And then it's seeing churches gathering together for collective action to impact the nation they are in. That's what this vision is about. It starts with, like we saw in the picture, it starts with a change in one child's life. But it doesn't end there, because God has a bigger plan. He always has a bigger plan. It is, yes, it's about a child, but it's about family, it's about community, it's about nation, and it's about the world. And now I need to make a confession. I had a different presentation today, that I wanted to show you a model and share with you some things that I believe could have been really helpful. But as I was praying yesterday and this morning, I think it was God. You know, this hearing God is a kind of sometimes a strange thing, so you want to make sure. But by this morning, I gave in. I said, okay, I'll do that. So what I'm going to do for the next 5 or 6 minutes is going to get personal, more personal than I thought it should be or it would be. Maybe to some degree uncomfortable, but sometimes you'll just have to do what we have to do. But I'll start actually with numbers. We like numbers. We are impressed by numbers. Numbers rarely motivate us to do something, but it's still helpful to know them. So I'll just want to give us 2 numbers. One number is 1 billion children. And I'll repeat it again, 1 billion children, which effectively is half of all the children in the world. There are roughly 2 billion children. So let's think of 1 billion children. You know what that number is significant for? Is that according to more recent studies and research, that's the number of children that experience abuse and violence every single year. I know that my time is running, but I want to pause here because that has to sink in. I know that number for a while, but it still kind of makes me feel bad. I have 5 kids. My wife and I, we are blessed with 5 boys. And it's always hard to leave them and when I'm traveling. But it's heartbreaking to think there is 1 billion children. Every other child experiences some kind of serious, I'm not talking about spanking, I'm talking about some kind of serious emotional, physical, or sexual abuse every year. So that's one number. That's number for the church globally. To be aware and to do something about it. Another number is smaller than that, but still significant, is around 8 million children around the world who, like Qiyuan, whose picture we saw before, need a new family. There are many ways how we can help children. I'll get to that very soon. Remember the personal part. But there are roughly, no one knows exact number, but roughly 8 million children around the world who actually need a new family. There is just no way they can go back to their families. There are relatives. They need someone to step in, just like this family from Singapore, and call them their son or daughter. Here is an interesting thing about this 8 million number. It's still a big number, right? It's still a huge number. I believe for God, one child that needs this kind of help is a significant number. But what I find very fascinating about this number, they have all reasons to believe that there are about 8 million churches around the world, local churches, roughly, give or take. Which means that if a family from every church would do something what this Singaporean family did for Kiyuan, guess what? We'll still have 1 billion. That's a bigger issue. But there will be no more children left who needed new families. Can we do that as a church? I think we can. Again, I know that it's a more complex thing. It's a bigger issue. I've been studying, working with governments. I've been studying systems. I know it's a more complex thing, but it just shows us both the need and the capacity that is represented here. The global church is represented here. We are looking at almost 1,000 people from 80 nations, and that's what the global church is. And we can tackle this. And now I'll get to the personal part. I believe that over next 5 years, not years, next 4 minutes, I believe that God, not 4 years. I don't think that anyone will be left to hear what I'll have to say by the end of the day, not talking about years. But over the next 4 minutes, somehow I like that 4-year idea. Over the next, that's how much it will take some of us to actually do what I'm going to say. But I'll only have 4 minutes to say it. So over the next 4 minutes, I believe God will be speaking to some people. I don't know to whom, I don't know how, and honestly, I don't know even why. But I believe He will be doing just that. And if you think that you are the one that God is speaking to you, I know many people will be like, no, I'm not sure, just like I was struggling with changing my presentation. Make sure, but if it is from God, I just want to encourage you. I want to ask you. I would want to even beg you, just go and do it. Learn the best you can and go and do it. So what it is that I'm talking about. There are some specific ways people in this audience can bring this vision into reality. You can become a mentor. I'm so grateful for Craig Greenfield and great alongside this movement. You can become a mentor to a child. Maybe God is speaking to you now about this. One child that you will be mentoring. You can help a family to stay together. There are different ways to do it, but by prevent them from abandoning their child just like it happened to Kiyuan. You can then become a foster family that will take a child for some time and help them and plant into them seeds and then help them grow. You can make an ultimate step, in this case, is to open hearts and open your home and take someone like Kiyuan into your family. I say ultimate because it's never an easy journey. I know a lot about this. It's never an easy journey, but it is the best, the biggest thing we can do, or you can do for a child that needs that. And I know that there are people in this audience that God is calling to do just that. Not everyone, fortunately, but there are some. I don't know who you are, but if you are wondering if this is God speaking to you, there is a very good chance that yes, He is speaking to you. Why? I don't know. Why you? I don't know. We can all say, why not him? Why not Ruslan take all the children in the world? I don't know. But He might be speaking to you. I would even say there are some people that God is speaking to you. Well, you have an orphanage. You run an orphanage. I want to thank you for that. There is nothing bad about it. I ran an orphanage. But as we saw in this video, there is a better way to do it. So maybe you will start a journey today that will help you to change the way you do this work and then maximize your impact and that see children, just like I mentioned earlier, growing up in safe, loving, and caring families. That can also happen. I could have stopped here, but I still have 1 minute, roughly 1 minute, 20 seconds, so I'll go on, okay? Would that be fine? So, because it's not just those things. I know that God already spoke to some people here. It might take 4 years to get that done or to even get started, but I encourage you to do it. There are some other things. God might be speaking today to you to become a champion of this vision in your city or in your community or even in your nation. Again, you might be wondering, why me? I don't know. But if that's what God is speaking to you, that will start a big journey for you. For some reason, God might want to use you to impact the whole nation. Not because you are such a gifted and passionate individual, but because it's his vision and it's his passion, and it can be done through the church. It can be done if church will get to do what we are called to do. So that's also what God may be calling you. And I have 30 seconds to finish with this. There are many people here who God may not be calling to adopt, foster, or be even a champion of this vision in your nation, but you are a senior pastor of the church, you're a denominational leader, you're a leader of a large organization, or you are an influencer in some other way. What God might be speaking to you today is that be an advocate for this. You don't need to do much. Just say a word, point the person in the right direction, mention something, pray sometimes about this, and you can be the one that will bring this vision into your nation, and you'll see another Kiyuan in the loving and caring family. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Ruslan. Stories like those inspire us to make a world without orphans, right? And now it's my honor to present to you our next keynote speaker. This is a man who has provided wonderful mentorship and leadership to me personally in my ministry life. He is the Vice President of Ministry Design at One Hope, and he heads global strategy and design for programs that reach over 100 million children and youth each year. And he's the chair of the organizing committee for this summit. Help me welcome to tell us the future of the 414 Window Movement, Reverend Dr. Chad Cossey.
Good afternoon. We have been thinking about and praying for you before you knew any of us existed. For 9 months, we have been dreaming, praying, working, striving, pleading with the Lord that this would be an incredible summit for you. We want it to be outstanding. We want it to be focused on how we as a movement serve the local church, and how we strengthen the local church and accelerate the local church to reach, rescue, root, and release children, youth, and families, the next generation. This is our passion. So I wanted to take a little while today and just talk to you about the future of our movement. Where have we been and where are we going? What does the future look like? What might it look like? And I can't speak for the movement. I'm just a member of the movement. But I'm a passionate member, so I'm going to tell you where my passion lies, where my hopes and dreams are, and what could be. This movement has been powerfully used by God. One of the greatest statements that I heard some of our leaders say just in the last couple of days, they said it's amazing. Never have we had such a strong sense that we were joining God in His mission. This has been so fast. It's been so dynamic. It's grown so quickly around the world, the 414 movement. We remain convinced that we are joining God. We're not coming up with this. We're not trying to create it. We are joining God in His mission. And when you look back, next year we're going to celebrate 10 years as a movement. 10 years that we've been accelerating, 10 years that we've been connecting, 10 years that we've been bringing people together and championing the cause of the church's engagement of children, youth, and families. It's a rich history. But what could the future look like? So we know that with movements like ours, there are 5 critical components. When these 5 attributes are in place, movements like ours can have incredible impact in the world. Here are the 5. How common is our agenda? How clear are we in what we're trying to accomplish? Movements must get very clear in what they're trying to do. We're not companies. We're not nonprofits. We're a movement. We exist to catalyze. We exist to accelerate. We exist to connect. We have to get very clear on what we're trying to do. Second, we have to have common progress measures. How are we getting this done? Where are we getting traction? Third, we need to have mutually reinforcing activities. We have to work smarter, not harder, because we have less resources, and yet God is bringing us together, and He's accelerating His work through us as we join Him. We have to have continuous communication. Movements are built not on financial capital. Movements are built on social capital. So we've got to strengthen our relationship and commitment to each other. And finally, a backbone organization. So how are we doing? The heart of our common agenda is to reach, rescue, root, and release. How have we done? As a movement, how have we done against that? So we did research. The 414 movement has done research now among 12,700 churches in 40 countries. A massive data set. Tell us everything you're doing to reach, rescue, root, and release children, young people, the next generation, families. Tell us everything. So they've given us massive amounts of data. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. And here's what we found out. One back, please. 60% of churches have seen their children or youth ministry grow less than 10% in the last 1 to 2 years. There's still work to be done in instilling a heart for unreached children among the churches of our world. There's still work to be done. It's not that most churches are growing explosively and dynamically. To the contrary, in children and youth ministry, most churches, 60%, have grown less than 10% in the last couple of years. We need a heart for unreached children. Secondly, we need appointed, qualified leadership for children, youth, and families in every church. I believe that. That's my goal. My goal is that every church would have leaders because we believe that everything works better when it has leadership. We believe that churches need to have leadership, and here's the reality. In large churches around the world, 1/3 of them still don't have someone appointed to lead the work among children, youth, and families. And in smaller churches, it's over half. When we ask them, what's your biggest challenge, what's your biggest need, 56% of the 12,700 churches we talked to said we need training. So this week, we brought together incredible training organizations and networks. There is no reason for a church to sit out there going, we need training. There is training available to you, and you're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about it whether it's mentoring alongsiders, and whether it's World Without Orphans, whether it's 1 for 50, whether it's GCF, the 414 Academy. There's training available. So how can we as a movement accelerate connecting that provision with those churches? Next, they said, we need better understanding of models. You know, we have specific contexts that we're trying to deal with, and we need to know how to work with refugees. We know who you should talk to. We need to know how to work with diaspora. We've got the people for you. We need to know what to do with orphans. We need to know what to do with abuse. We need to know what to do with trauma. We need to know what to do with joblessness. We need to know what to do with homelessness. The 414 movement is bringing those people together. Our role is not to provide everything. Our role is to create a space that accelerates connecting those resources with the churches that need it so that we reach, rescue, root, and release the next generation. 44% said they need better knowledge of models, relevant models. We can do something about this. Next, they said, we really need quality resources. And I think, if I'm honest, I think that there's a sharp nudge in that. Too often in our churches, our children get maybe a little worksheet, maybe a crayon, maybe something small, and then they leave our church and they go play a multi-million-dollar game on a mobile device. The churches are feeling it, brothers and sisters. Like, we've got to double down. We've got to accelerate how we create high-quality resources. Who's the we? It's each of us. The 414 movement exists to bring us together, to accelerate our interactions, but we're the ones. So can I tell you what my goal is? My goal is that every church would have access to relevant models and quality resources. That's what I'm going to spend my life working on as part of this movement. Here's the hardest one for me. If we have two distinctives as a movement, I would argue that they are, how do we reach unreached children, and how do we release them into the work of the gospel? And here's what the 12,700 churches told us. 55% of those churches had 90% of their young people doing nothing. Nothing. Can I just tell you, those churches are dying and they haven't gotten the memo. If you live in this day and age and you're not challenging your young people to take up their cross and follow Christ, you have a problem. The idea that over half of our churches have 90% of their young people doing nothing is tragic. Especially when you listen to Reverend Seward stand up here and go, man, some of my best church planters are young people. We live in an accelerating age. We cannot afford to allow 90% of a third of the world, our world, to be uninvited, to have no seat at the table. We've got to change that. What could the future look like? I think the future needs to look like empowered movement members who know what they're invited to do, who are challenged to take action to do it, who have clarity on how do we do it in a way that's coordinated and we don't step on each other's toes. But I believe that our movement has to exist for you, to accelerate you, to resource you, to connect you. We've got to get faster because we do live in an age of accelerations. I believe that God is speaking to some of you today. I believe that He will. For some, it will be World Without Orphans. For others, it will be mentoring. But for some of you, it's how do I take the 414 movement to my neighborhood, to my city, to my country. And we want to help you do that. So tonight, I just invite you, if you're sensing a stirring and a quickening, that God is speaking to you in a distinctive way to accelerate your engagement with the 414 movement, to begin to take leadership in your part of the world, reach out to us. You've got the app. I'm on it. Send me a text. Send a text to Brandon. Send a text to any of our team. Let us know. I want to talk to someone. I feel God stirring something in my heart, and I want to talk to someone about it. What does this mean for me? What could it look like? Can I tell you right now, we have no money. We have no money. We have no power. But we believe. We believe. We believe that it is time. And because we believe, as a gift to you, we made a video for you because we thought it was time that we had a new video. We hope you enjoy this new 414 video.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to start with a short, very short introduction of who I am, so everyone can get a sense of who is this person speaking in front of you. My name is Lincoln. I come from a missionary family, which means my parents are missionaries. I was born in northern Japan when they were church planting. My younger brother is a missionary. Him and his wife live in Nepal right now. And I had always aspired to be a missionary, and yet somehow my parents never let me go down that route. So regrettably, I'm a researcher, and I am sorry if that sounds very boring to all of you, but I hope that I can present something interesting to you today. But that is the road that God has led me down, and I hope that by giving you a case study from an organization that I work with in the Philippines, I can give you some insight into how we're trying to develop new programs. So the current story starts in 2016. This organization, International Care Ministries, we had run a very effective education program for about 6 years, and at its peak, we were running 95 preschools across the central and southern regions of the Philippines. We were graduating 2,000 children from these preschools, and each one of these preschools were a very effective outreach tool for churches because these preschools were attached to these churches. But at the same time, there was Millennium Development Goals. And so these are goals that were set by the United Nations. So in 2015, the Millennium Development Goals were trying to achieve something called universal primary education. And so around the world, there were great efforts to get kids into schools. And to be honest, it was actually very successful. So in the Philippines, what had happened was the Department of Education had reached over 90% enrollment rate. And what they told us was, you're not needed in our areas anymore. We have enough schools. Now, as an NGO, this is actually a great thing, but it's also a difficult thing as well because it means that suddenly we had a program that wasn't needed or necessary from the government. At the same time, there was a shift in the global development ideas around education. And the shift went from thinking about enrollment, which is keeping kids in school, to learning. And we came to this realization that just because children are sitting in school doesn't mean they learn. And actually, I experienced that a lot myself in school. So the new goals that were set for 2030 is high quality education, and that's what we were aiming at. So as an organization, we came to this difficult point because we needed to design a brand new program. We came across this very interesting program that was running in Cebu, in another part of the Philippines. And it's quite simple. This foundation had developed a set of flashcards, and using these flashcards, they would hire teachers to visit households 2 times a week, and they would play these math games with the mother and with the child. And by playing these games, they were hoping that the mother would then play with their child day in and day out and increase their ability to do math. So we thought this was an interesting program, but then we came across 3 questions. So the first one is, how can we scale this flashcard program? The way that it was being run in Cebu by this other foundation was very expensive. And we wanted to bring this to not 2 communities or 4 communities, but we wanted to reach 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 communities with this. The second question was, how can we integrate this into our own mission? Our mission was we wanted to create tools for these churches to do outreach and effectively reach their community. And then the third question is, can we innovate to make this more effective? And that's where my role came in, was as a researcher, I was going to try to wrap data around the development of this program so that we can understand what's happening and attempt to make it more effective. So what we ended up doing was we created a first phase. And I'm sorry if this looks very scientific or academic. That is where I come from. But if you'll just be gracious with me, this is how we're going to present it. So we went into this proof of concept phase, and we decided that there's 2 key purposes we wanted to do. We wanted to create this to be a tool that can be used by the church to reach out to their neighborhood. But we also wanted to do something called school readiness. So by playing these games, our theory or our idea was that children will become school ready. If they're better at mathematics, especially for households where children come from poverty, we are hoping that when they reach their 1st grade, they aren't so far behind that everything the teacher is teaching goes over their heads. We wanted kids to feel confident when they reach the first day of school. So we tested this out in one province, and I set up this type of data analysis or this type of data collection around the program. It's actually very, very simple. We just try to make it a little more complicated so that we look a little smarter. But we start with the baseline assessment, and that's just testing the children before, and then the end line is testing a child at the end of the program. And we're just testing math skills. We want to see, are they getting better and better at math over the course of the program? So what we learned after doing this was that, we were able to run this program. Churches were interested, pastors were interested, and the children that went through our variation of the program were indeed getting better at math. But the most interesting thing that we learned after running this during our proof of concept in phase 1 was the stories that we were getting back from the parents. And what our parents were starting to tell us was that, I never knew that my child could be so smart. And we had other feedback that said, I never knew I could be such good friends with my child. And something was happening between the parent-child relationship, and so we wanted to investigate this further. And to do that, we went to the second phase. We decided to add a third purpose to our program, and this third purpose is to really push at parent-child relationships. We made a few other changes. We added phonics, we added parent coaching into the program, but the whole idea was we now have this program that was starting to change. There's a few things that we did to try to make it more efficient and effective to make it scale. And then with this second phase of about 180 children, 190 children, we also wrapped it with data analysis. And of course, I made it even more complicated. What we did here was we decided to survey all of the guardians before the start of the program and all of the guardians at the end of the program. We used two different surveys. The guardian survey, we were trying to get a sense of what does the parents think about their child? What is their aspirations for their children? How much time are they spending with their child? And in the second part, which is the child survey, this is something that we're working with the university in New York that gave us an instrument called IDELA, which is used by Save the Children, to try to get a sense of, are children school ready? So we were really lucky to get access to these kind of instruments. And what do we find here? If you just go back one slide, what we found here was quite impressive. So for school readiness, we played these very interesting games where maybe the surveyor will go out and lay 20 sticks in front of the child and ask them, can you give me 5 sticks? Can you give me 13 sticks? And we're trying to see if they can get it correct. Now, of course, the math skills were getting better, but what really excited us was that it wasn't just mathematics that was getting better. These children were able to concentrate for longer amounts of time. They were more motivated to do their tasks. But instead, in addition to the children, it was the parents that really surprised us. So for the typical mother before this program compared to after the program, they were telling us that they were spending about an hour to an hour and a half more with their child, either playing, talking, or doing constructive activities with their child. And the really cool thing was that this also happened for the father. The fathers were telling us that they were spending more time with their children. So we learned that there was something fascinating that we started with a program with flashcards, which is quite an old type of educational tool. But using this, we were able to spark a relationship between a parent and a child. And this might be taken for granted in some of our contexts, but in the slums that we work in the Philippines, it's quite common for us to see a group of 5, 6-year-olds being taken care of by a 10 or 11-year-old. And because of that, they lack the attention and quality time with their parent. We also know from other research that's done around the world is that for low-income families, children, by the time they reach the age 4, would hear 30 million words less than children that live in high-income families. So this is a very, very serious problem, and it was impressive, or it was very encouraging for us to see that maybe there is something that we can do about it. And by something this simple, we can spark interest between parents and their children, and they can spend time, quality time, together. So these were the first 2 phases. And what we ended up having to do now, and this is what is happening, we started this 2 weeks ago, is phase 3. And so for phase 3, we started to recognize that maybe the cards aren't so important, so we started to design contextual games. So now we're trying to use what's in their current environment and in their home to design games that the child and the mother or the child and the father can play with. We also increased the sample size, so now we're looking at 500 children that are going to receive this program, and then we're actually doing something called a randomized controlled trial. And I won't go into the details of it, but it looks something like this. So this is the most complicated slide here, and I'm very sorry about it. But the simple way to explain it is that we found 550 children in the top row. And so these are children that are going to get the full program that we've designed. And we're doing all the measurements and all the data collection. We realize that at this point at our organization, we can only run this program for about 500 children. But we've identified another 500 children that we know we can provide the program to in 6 months' time. But we're going to measure those children too. And we're going to compare these results. And by doing this, we really hope it'll give us confidence that we can really be sure that our program is making a difference. Now, some of you here might look at this and say, all right, this is just you academics coming up with crazy things, making it very complicated. So what I'm going to put it to you is that this actually shows up in the Old Testament. In Daniel chapter 1, Daniel and his buddies decided to put themselves in the top category. And they told the chief of the eunuchs, and they said, put me on this diet. I don't need meat. I don't need wine. I'm going to eat vegetables and fruits and show the result after. And I think it's astounding that using this design, Daniel was actually able to change the policy of a country that was secular. So I hope that this is an example that all of you can find encouraging. That what we're trying to attempt to do right now is to really draw up good quality evidence and good quality research so that we're able to be confident that what we're doing is really changing these children's lives. And with this, we really hope that we can really address some of the questions that the secular world might have about our programs. So just lastly, all I wanted to share is that from us and our experience so far, we really felt that if we didn't go down this route of being open and learning, there is a lot that we could have missed. And I guess the final reflection or the final piece that I hope that we can all think about is all of us assembled here with the different programs that we're running, with the different initiatives that we're trying to do. Is there a little bit more information that we can reflect on? Because I firmly believe that we should do our absolute best to design the absolute best programs possible for the least in the world. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Gladys. I am from Madagascar, not the movie. It's an island. We are part of Africa. And I am so grateful this afternoon that we can share with you God's work in Madagascar through Keli Mahefa Ministries. Keli Mahefa means small but smart. And our vision is to empower the next generation to be the change for the future. That is our vision. If you want to see the change in our nation, God's word must be the heart of the movement. So I want to share with you some statistics in Madagascar. A lot of numbers and numbers and numbers. And the numbers, each in the next slide, the numbers that I want to share with you is actually the numbers of God's word that we distributed in Madagascar. I know that you are asking in your mind, how is it possible to distribute such books, numbers, within one organization? And you're right to ask that because it's not within one organization. It's only God giving you the right connection and the right network. So in the beginning of my ministry, I was just doing some researches in Madagascar, in my country, what's happening. And I found that the child in Madagascar at school, they cannot afford to pay even one book to read. So we went to the Department of Education, the Minister of Education, and he said to them, you have a very big problem in this department. And we had the solution for that. Because we can provide one book for one child in the whole nation. They're so excited about it. Then we gave them the book. They saw it. It's a Christian book. Jesus is inside, God's word. So they said to us, we will be in trouble. It's not possible. And we said to them, this country is already in trouble. So, if you are willing to give God's word to those children, the trouble will stop through them. From that day, they give us an official letter from the Department of Education that you can go to every public schools and you can distribute the Book of Hope. Then, I just want to tell you that we are just using the already existed structure in Madagascar. Like the church, for example. I was asking God, what are the church are doing in Madagascar? There are a lot of people all inside the church. And I've seen that they didn't really give values to the children, to the kids. So again, research, meetings and meetings. And we had one meeting with the head of the Assemblies of God in Madagascar. We have about 900 churches around the nation. But all of the churches around Madagascar, they don't have any curriculum for children. Big problem. And I told them, we have big solution for you. Because we can equip every leaders from churches and using the same material all around Madagascar. The material is 17 stories because the children cannot read, so orality is a very effective way for us to teach the Bible. So, about 2 years, we equipped 800 national Assemblies of God churches with the material. We are traveling around Madagascar, equip them, and that is the way for us, really, to serve the already existed structure in our country. When you're doing ministry, you are always asking God, what is next? Like our conference here in Singapore, what is next? So it's good to solve the problem at school and at churches, but there is also kids who are just street kids. So Lord, help us to understand how we're gonna reach the street kids in Madagascar. And then we have one organization, the name is End of Hope. They came in Madagascar and they told us, we want to do something for the street kids. We want to celebrate them. So bring them in the stadium. Let's give them food, clothes, have fun with them. And I said to the person, so we want us to bring all of the street kids in the capital to have fun with them for one day? And he said, yes. And I said to the person, that's a big problem. How can you just have an opportunity bringing all of the street kids, not all, but the majority of them in one big stadium, and just minister to them one day? No, it's not possible. So what? I was very inspired with the 1 for 50 movement when they're saying, what if every child around the world will have one person to mentor them, to help them to walk with Jesus. So I've told my team, that's be the solution. 1 year before the festival with all of the street kids, we're gonna equip the mother in Madagascar. We will ask them, could you be a mother not only for your child at home, but also for the street kids? Then you create Mother's Club around your house. And then one mother will bring 25 kids at the festival. But you have to make a commitment. After the festival, you have to follow up with them each week, once a week for 5 years. That was the commitment. They said, yes, we want to do that. So, 44,000 street kids and underprivileged kids were coming during the Festival of Hope with the mothers. It's not for one day, it's for 5 years. It's still continuing growing right now, the mothers. I just want to ask you to pray for us because we have one more problem that we didn't get solved right now. It's about the feeding program because we feed 1,500 kids every day. It's a big problem because they will become weak if we just give them food every day. We have to give them God's word, but also they have to be independent. So please pray for us. To conclude, I just want to share with you some vocabularies that me and my team in Madagascar are using in Madagascar. We are creating a library in Madagascar because we are connected with different organizations, and every year we just do a vision casting for all of the denominations, and they came to us just to take any resources that they want. So that's why we are working with One Hope, Global Children Forum, End of Hope, the Ready, Set, Go materials, and we also developed our own curriculum in Madagascar with our own language. So we become like a library, and every denominations can just be in our center and can be trained. I just want to share with you the words that we really use in our organizations. We are catalyzing a movement, which means we are not only training, but we do a training of trainers. We are not only increasing the numbers, but also focusing more on outcomes. We are not doing once event, but consistency. We are not just doing a program, but people being transformed is our goal. And not only minister for children, but with children. That is our slogan. So, you know why it is so effective in Madagascar? Because 12 years ago, I had my own kids club at home, and we just share God's word with them, having fun with them, just relational. And now, the kids are becoming youth, and they are my team in Madagascar doing the program. It's not something that they dream about to be a change, it's a reality, because they are now on the ground, and they know exactly the effectiveness of doing something for the nation. So just one sentence to sum up. I just want to say that if you want to be the change for your nation, disciple the few to reach the many. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gladys. Wow. Small lady, but big heart. So on fire in reaching the children of Madagascar. Thank you so much. That was very inspiring. Awesome job, everyone. You're doing a great job in being attentive, being alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic, right? All right. You're not allowed to sleep on us, okay? But if you do fall asleep, please don't snore too loud, or you might wake up the person beside you, okay? All right. We're going to be taking a 30-minute break in a while. We're going to be stretching our legs. We're going to meet someone new today. There's coffee and tea in the same locations as this morning. down in the car park, and upstairs in the summit room, okay? Now, we're gonna do this. If you're sitting on the left side of this building, it is best to go out this side of the room, go upstairs to the summit. And if you're sitting from this side to the right side, it is best to go down to the car park for coffee and tea, okay? Come back here at 3:30. You don't want to be late. Why? Because we have a panel discussion coming up, and we're going to be discussing okay, that's a good point. All right. Okay. Thank you, Pastor Rick. Because we're running ahead of our time, Pastor Rick is going to check if the tea and coffee are ready by this time. But anyway, if tea and coffee are not ready, I'm ready to take pictures with you. Okay? Okay. So, come back here at 3:30. We're going to have a panel discussion coming up. People are going to be discussing about digital and technology resources, so you don't want to miss that, okay? It's ready. Coffee and tea are ready. No pictures with me. Go.